A masterful villain or an antagonist is sometimes hard to come by. There's definitely an abundance of good ones, hell even great ones, but as soon as you try to put them on the same platform which holds the likes of Griffith from Berserk or Johan from Monster, they start to crumble. You bear witness to the polarizing difference and expanding gap between a great villain or antag compared to a masterful one. Hell, even some may consider a perfect one. To be honest, it's not the end of the world. Not every villain has to be a masterclass in writing. Not every antagonist needs to be a Johan or Griffith. Instead, a consistently engaging and fearful counterpart that conflicts with the main character is all people want, just so you can be happy and proud of having that main villain within your story. However, every now and then, a character comes through that once again, unknowingly sets its sights for the highest of peaks, to push itself to become a character that could rival those said giants, whether on purpose or not. This newcomer would be known as Makima, as the series Chainsaw Man meticulously crafted a character that has every reader under her control, a character that embodies the definitions of manipulative, evil, conniving, corrupt, sick and twisted, intelligent, emotionally hollow. The list could go on forever. But the best thing about all of these defining traits is that you don't actually know she is all of them. It's something that secretly builds over time within the background, and even masked with a completely different personality that is addicting. It comes with questioning her judgment and comparing it to your own, trying to understand her thought process and how she truly functions. You know something doesn't click, you can feel it in your bones, and how she upholds herself, how she reacts and responds to specific things, but you can't find that kink in her armor. Instead, you watch everything you've come to love about Chainsaw Man be completely demolished and rotten because of her. You watch as she becomes the puppeteer to every character in their journey. You knew something was wrong with her, but you probably didn't expect it to this degree, and I can't blame you. Our current understanding of her has completely recontextualized the entirety of the story and our main character Denji, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Not only is she rewriting our own perspective, she's doing it all while wearing that addicting and alluring mask, which creates such a powerful contrast for a character that we have only spent 80 plus chapters with. From the beginning, she's been controlling the story, she's been controlling the characters, the atmosphere, but she's also been controlling us. The ultimate puppeteer that has redirected everything and everyone down a different path, to eventually all meet back where we are now, and to finally see what she's truly capable of, to finally see the rotten monster behind that armor, the control devil in all of its twisted glory. To have a better understanding of Makima, we have to look at the beginning of the story, chapter 1, and how its foundation is laid out in a specific way that subconsciously paints her in an eerily gracious light. We open up to Denji, our main character, and the struggles of his everyday life, a life filled with suffering, depression, hanging on by inches to survive and get through to the next day. It's a rather heavy introduction to him, to the world, and how dark this narrative is laying itself out to be, especially for the foreseeable future. It's getting you accustomed to that atmosphere and its unforgiving nature by directing it through Denji and ripping away his only source of light within a dim world, his best friend Pochita. This specific event that pushed Denji to his limits and leaves behind nothing for him to continue on living, Makima would step in and connect a hopeful future filled with things he hasn't experienced before. This ultimately does a lot of different things, but to name a few, it connects Makima to Denji. It elevates her to be a benevolent person by providing a future. It gives primary control of Denji's actions and responses, and it also slightly warps his perspective. Considering this was a person that was raised with nothing and has to fight to survive, the bare minimum that is offered is seen as a glorious gift, one that is blindly appreciated and wholeheartedly accepted. Denji's infatuation with Makima would also play a massive part into her easily gaining control over his emotions and mental state on a consistent level. This allows her a scary and tremendous amount of flexibility over him so early within the story, something that shouldn't be a thing, but is understandable with where he came from and the fact that his personal goal is to feel some breasts. She even takes this a step further by elaborating on the idea that he can do anything he likes to her if he takes out a powerful being known as the Gun Devil. At this point, Denji is already hook, line, and sinker. She's reeled him in with minimal effort and distorted any chance of negative space confiding within him towards her. To put simply, don't bite the hand that feeds you, especially if you had nothing before. Now, little would we know this would only be the beginning of Makima's approach to detouring, controlling, and puppeteering almost every aspect of Denji's lifestyle, from the food he eats, the comfort he enjoys, to even the individuals he meets and grows to befriend. Remember, this is all unfolding naturally within the background. You don't really suspect Makima in having such a detailed hand within everything. She is perfectly woven within the grain of the narrative as someone of power that supplies the necessary things for Denji to continue his work. She also provides openings to basically every character introduced that comes into contact with him. Her character is utilizing literature concepts being used to hide and manipulate things within her favor. For such a prominent and alluring character, you notice things are off rather quickly, but you can't put your finger on a specific location or reasoning. Hell, a lot of the time you can't even understand why she acts the way she does or puts herself in a position of vulnerability. But it's never that simple. The rabbit hole goes rather deep, and at the bottom of that dark pit is none other than Makima herself, playing a game with all of her unsuspecting toys, lining them up piece by piece to eventually destroy them in order, causing a ripple effect, with something new being born by the end of it. The recent events within Chainsaw Man confirm something for all of us, that Makima herself was pulling all the strings in every way imaginable. The steps, actions, and situations she's put herself in was all methodically planned and constructed to give birth to something new. This would all be conformed around Denji, with him being at the center, acting as a starting point and potentially even an ending. Just think, the entire story you have read so far has completely changed. Makima has recontextualized every meaning, response, and personality that gives you a completely different perspective on that narrative. Even though it changes what you know, it entirely reinforces our lingering suspicion of her, turning it into a legitimate response and nerve-wracking understanding. Makima's true colors have finally been shown, and it comes at quite the hefty cost and realization of the main cast of characters: Aki, Power, and of course Denji. Starting from Aki to the events that lead to where we are now, to put simply, is a heartbreaking experience. Even though you know something is lurking on the horizon that involves prominent characters dying, you never grasp hold onto the context that makes those moments so powerful. You never see the true danger, not the one on the horizon, but the devil that's been right beside us since the beginning of the story, manipulating every action in such a vile and twisted way, the one leading us to that horizon. Makima has posed as an angelic individual that had enough power to give Denji a good life, to be able to provide him with food, a home, and friends that eventually become his family, only for her to eventually rip it all away in front of his eyes and distort his emotional connection to them, to her, but also decay any sort of self-reasoning or realization within himself by blaming it all on him. Makima has taken control of that guilt and weaponized it completely to use it against Denji to break him, allowing her to take full control over every aspect of his being. She even goes a step further to paint a grim future for him, saying any sort of happiness she provides or Denji comes to find himself, she will destroy it, all without hesitation. Seeing this all unravel, seeing how Makima reacts and handles the situations, seeing how she breaks Denji bit by bit is honestly horrifying. We knew she was an odd character, one that was emotionally hollow, one that had tremendous power, a woman that even some of the strongest people absolutely fear. But I don't think any of us truly knew how deep it all went, how she had her hands in everything the story has given us so far, how she brought characters together and gave happiness, only for her to take it away and decimate it in front of them. Makima is undoubtedly pure evil, one that is extremely intelligent and twisted, one that controls everyone in their future. Seeing her true face after 80 chapters and understanding her more deeply has been such an incredible experience to witness. Not to mention, this directly affects Denji with how connected he is to her, how he gave up his own free will after the death of Aki. He was mentally exhausted and didn't want to feel that burden any longer. To then have that weight of Power's death on his shoulders thanks to Makima, it pushed him to his limits. It broke him, or should I say Makima broke him. The future of Chainsaw Man, Denji, and Makima is unknown, but exciting. To think this journey still has two massive arcs to get through before its conclusion, as we're coming to the end of the first, I believe, makes me think this story is being written as a tragedy, which comes in threes. With how the narrative has gone so far, how Denji is portrayed as a character, how suffocating the atmosphere is, and it supposedly having three massive story arcs in total, I would recommend you all prepare yourself for the tragedy to come. come. I don't think it can get any more visually extreme as it's within Weekly Shonen Jump's guidelines, but what it's done so far is more than enough to cement itself on that suffering path. And with Makima at the helm for it all, controlling every direction taken, we are undoubtedly in for a misery-filled experience. Makima has become the devil of the story, a puppeteer, and for many is currently considered a villain/antagonist that rivals some of the greatest. She is beyond a memorable character, one that burns into your mind, and by the end of Chainsaw Man, I wouldn't be surprised to see her placed alongside the likes of Griffith and Johan as an individual that manipulates and spreads such intoxicating fear, with a twisted desire to control absolutely everything. However, this is only the beginning. So that is pretty much it. Obviously, the title is spun from Soul's Eren Yeager has become the monster video, so if for some reason you haven't watched one of the best AOT videos within the community, even though it's a little dated now, I highly recommend you do. Also, just to update, I've been having an absolute blast talking about Chainsaw Man recently. It's really bringing back that old Tokyo Ghoul nostalgia from talking about it weekly. Over time, the Chainsaw Man chapter videos I do will transition into scripted, well-edited videos. I'm just getting comfortable first. Anyway, let me know how you feel about Makima, especially after the most recent events. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. But I want to thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Drink plenty of water, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.